What to eat and drink in Central Italy. So when we speak of Central Italy, we speak of a specific area of the country, and I have prepared a little map for you that more or less gives you an idea. Here is the map. So on the left, you see a map of Italy divided into 4 sections. The top, the northern part, the green part, is the northern area, the one that we call not Mediterranean, but continental Italy, which includes Piedmont, Lombardy, Veneto, the cities of Milan, Venice, and so on. But then you have 2 regions in green that border the yellow area. Those regions, Liguria, Italian Riviera, the area of Cinque Terre and Genoa, and Emilia Romagna, which are south of the Po River. So technically speaking, whatever is south of the Po River, we consider Central Italy. Technically, what you see in yellow in this map, so Tuscany, Marche, Umbria, my region, and Lazio, and top by Emilia Romagna, that's what we say is Central Italy. On the right, you see a weird guy in front of an incredible aperitivo. It wasn't just for me, it was for 4 people, just so you know, we're not that bad. Let's move on. Now, the reason why in Italy we have this very fantastic variation and diversity of food is because we come from a very ancient tradition. Not only the one that people think of the Romans, many people think of the Romans, Italy, and so on. But Italy, way before the Romans, was populated by so many different populations that were called pre-Roman civilizations. Each of them had already been living through the Italian peninsula for hundreds or thousands of years. Since then, so since 3,000-4,000 years ago until today, we still eat and drink evolutions of those ancient millenary traditions. Region by region, Italy is made by 20 regions. Each of them has its own ancient history. So you can imagine this diversity moving along the centuries. The other funny aspect of why Italy is so diverse is because, unlike other countries in Europe, Italy is a baby country. We were made into a country only in 1870. So 153 years ago, 354 years ago. So you can imagine 3,000-4,000 years of individual development, of settlements, of cultures, united only 150 years ago. We're still a baby, and we're still holding on to our diversity. This is important for you to understand, because when you travel Italy for the first time, or you travel Italy many times, and I know many of you have been here many times and will come back again, you will always see different places, not only architecturally, linguistically, and so on, but from the food and wine perspective. And that's why it's important that I give you this talk. First of all, because it's fun. Second of all, because after this, I'm going to go for dinner. and also, if you want to enjoy some of these dishes, you got to come back to Italy on your own, or if you want to join one of our tours or other companies' tours, more than welcome. And if you have any questions, you can always email us or text us, of course. Now, in this picture, for example, an ancient tradition of making cured meats. On the right, prosciutto and other, the one on the far right is called culatello in the region of Emilia Romagna. And on the left, of course, the wheels of the king of the cheese for me, Parmigiano Reggiano. Parmigiano Reggiano for me, if one day I die, I'm sure I will die at some point, please bury me with a wheel of Parmigiano Reggiano in my coffin, and I'll be happy for eternity. These are very old school traditions. Still today, we perpetuate and we produce them. Throughout these millennia, the contact between human settlements, human culture, and animals has always been important, of course. And many of our products has been directly produced thanks to the production of animals, like cheese, for example, or milk, or meat, or seafood, but also the fact that animals have always been used as a working power to plow the fields and do the agriculture. For 10,000 years in the Mediterranean, we have proof of agricultural life, and animals have always been interconnected with humans. On the bottom right picture, one of my favorite pictures is a pig and a wild boar. Where I live, both animals are sacred. Sacred meaning not that we pray, we worship them, but we love them, and they end up in our dish. Wild boar as a game meat, like a spezzatino, like a stew, and pig, like there's maybe 24 different varieties, but also chickens. Sheep milk is very popular in Central Italy, and cows, of course, for the beef, like Chianina, Florentine steaks, and so on. One key ingredient for Italian cuisine south of the Po River, remember that division that I gave you, north of the Po, continental Italy, south of the Po, Mediterranean Italy, is olive oil. North of the Po River is rare to find olive oil production, because the climate is different. The breeze of the Mediterranean Sea creates this unique, happy environment. And that's why south of the Po River, we have a massive production of olive oil. Quantity-wise, other countries in Europe produce more, also because Italy, it's kind of a skinny, mountainous country. And I know my friend Jorge in Spain can confirm there's a huge production of olive oil in Spain. Italy has a great production of olive oil, but also the quality of the olive oil is important. And being Italy a vertical country from north to south, exposed to two different seas, the Western Sea, Tyrrhenian Sea, the Eastern Sea, Adriatic Sea, and in the south, the Ionic Sea and the Sicilian Channel, you have beautiful Mediterranean breeze from each direction every day, and the plants are very happy. On top of that, volcanic soil, richness of the soil, the protection of the mountains in the north create a very special environment for the crop to thrive. Olive oil is a key ingredient in our diet, not only because doctors say it's good, blah, 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 because I'm not a doctor, so I cannot say that, but I do like olive oil, and olive oil is key in most, if not all, of our recipes. So invest your money and time on buying quality olive oil, because tastes better than the randomly produced one. So extra virgin olive oil in Italy, we only produce that. We have no other kinds of productions, and we call it the magic ingredient. In the nearby town of Spello, they call it the gold of Spello, because Spello produces one of the finest quality olive oils in Europe. This is a little paper that I prepared for those who are interested. You can take a screenshot or a picture. This explains to you quickly how Italian meals work. Italians are a little bit obsessed with when it comes to food, and that's why we divide our meals and our dishes into categories. Top right, Italian meals, we have breakfast, colazione, pranzo, lunch, merenda, which is a morning or an afternoon snack, aperitivo, which is aperitif. It's a before meal snack and drink. It can be before dinner or before lunch, it depends. It could be a snack with a drink. And then cena, dinner or supper. Italian menu. This is very important to most North American visitors and also Northern Europeans, because often I've heard many friends visiting here for the first time coming to me and say, oh, we cannot find the vegetables. Do you guys have vegetables in Italy? I'm like, yeah, we have like thousands of different vegetables. But often in the United States and Canada, I remember salads are placed at the top of the menu. In Italy, no. In Italy, they're placed at the bottom of the menu, because for us, a salad is not a starter. For us, it's a cleanser. So after the meal, towards the end, before dessert, we have a salad. So if you want to order a salad as a starter, you can, but you have to go down in the menu. So our menu starts with an antipasto, starters, appetizers. Primo, first course, usually is pasta, risotto, pizza, soups, and so on. Anything that's basically flour-based, except for breads. Bread for us is a companatico. It means, in Italian, means it's something that helps us clean the sauce, and you have a bite of the dish, a bite of the food, and a bite of the bread if you like bread. Secondo is second course, usually is the protein and fat, so meat, fish, and vegetarian protein dishes. Of course, we have plenty of them. Contorno, side dishes, that's where your salads would be displayed on the menu. All sorts of vegetables and also potatoes are considered as a side, contorno. And then dolce, dessert, any kind of dessert. Caffè, usually if you order coffee in Italy, by default, they bring you an espresso. They don't bring you an American coffee, as you know, because if you want American coffee, as I wrote, you have to ask for it specifically. Otherwise, they'll give you an espresso. And cappuccino, but usually cappuccino afternoon, they don't serve it. And digestivo, the end of it, which we call it in a funny way, the coffee killer. After coffee, there's a coffee killer drink, which is a digestive drink. Usually it's an amaro. It's an herbal drink, like a distillation of herbs, or limoncello, lemon, or meloncello, mandarello, grappa, any liqueur that will help trigger your digestion. I'm not sure whether it triggers your digestion or not. It's more mental, in my opinion, but Italians love their digestive drink not after every meal, of course, but when you're out with friends or family, often you ask for mezza grappa, a little half a grappa, or limoncello if you don't like harsh flavors. So take a screenshot of this if you like it, and then I'll move on. I hope this was useful for you to understand. We begin with the antipasto. So I have made a selection of my finest pictures. Most of these pictures are taken by me, or in this case, Rainer and other friends. Left and right, a great selection of antipasto. In this case, this is a very rich antipasto where you have cold cuts for those who eat meat, or you have a pate of mushrooms. Then you have some fruits, some snacks, some cream cheese, and so on and so on. Grapes, and then on the right instead you find cold cuts. In this case, is bresaola with some cherry tomatoes, parsley. Sorry, no parsley. Basil, olive oil, and salt. Another selection of cheeses on the right, and another antipasto on the left. As you can see on the left picture, there's 2 glasses of wine above the plate. Italians have always eaten and drunk at the same time. So we never drink by itself, or eat by itself. Wine for us is an ingredient. It's not just an alcoholic drink. So wine pairs with the food. That's why it's important to have a sip of the wine after a bite of the food. And that's why Italians, but not Italians in general, in Europe, we have this concept of matching the right drink with the right food. You know, if you have a steak and you drink a prosecco, the prosecco fades away. If you have a salmon and you have a brunello di Montalcino, maybe the salmon would taste like plastic because the brunello takes care of all your taste buds. That's why you will always see pictures with drinks. And even if you're going to a cafe, a bar for an aperitivo, you order the aperitivo, you maybe spend 3-4 euro total, but they always serve you snacks with it. Like in Spain, they serve you tapas, of course, tapas together with cerveza or wine or other drinks. It's a typical European concept. These are 2 special rooms. One is actually my uncle's on the right, and as you can see, it's kind of a cave. It's a cellar, and this is an aging room. It's an aging room with a lot of cold cuts. If you like Italian cold cuts, I live in the region of Umbria, and it's the region of Italy where, originally speaking, in ancient pre-Roman times, they came out with this concept of curing the meat. Why? Because simply until a few decades ago, nobody had a refrigerator because it wasn't invented yet. So a cave, being able to cure the meat with a special ventilation technique would save the meat and not have it going bad. So you could eat meat for days and days. And that's why this kind of cold cuts usually used to be meals, full meals, like 10 slices of prosciutto, 10 slices of capocollo, a couple of tomatoes, a bread. That was your dinner. Now we have a slice or 2 because we have plenty of other options. But in the old days, and the old days, I mean thousands of years ago, even hundreds of years ago, prosciutto was not a snack, was a meal, okay? This is me preparing an aperitivo, actually an antipasto at some friend's restaurant. We took over the restaurant, we destroyed the kitchen, and we made dinner for 45 people few months ago, and it was great. So I was in charge of preparing the antipasto. These are 2 of my favorite. On the left is prosciutto from the area of Emilia Romagna, the area of Bologna, Parma, Modena, and Ferrara, with some of their delicious local cow cheese. On the right is that you have the lumachella. Lumachella is a snail-shaped bread that's unique of my town, Orvieto, in Umbria. Orvieto is a town located an hour north of Rome, 2 hours south of Florence, in the middle of Italy. And from here, we touch 3 regions. We border 3 regions, so we can kind of steal the best from each region, the best from southern Tuscany, the best of northern Lazio, which is the region of Rome, and the best from Umbria, which is the region where I am living by 2 miles. Lumachella, if you want lumachella, you got to come to Orvieto. Lumachella inside has bacon, black pepper, and cheese, pecorino cheese, melted. So really, really good. On the left, in fact, now you see the lumachella in its splendor. And on the right, you see the result of my presentation for the dinner, the friend's dinner, all the wrapped prosciutto. It took me like 5 hours to do that, but they forced me to do it, so I had to do it. Anyway, the reason why I'm showing you the lumachella is not because you need to come to Orvieto and buy the lumachella, but every town you go to in Italy, you find at least 3 or 4 or 5 or more unique dishes of that very town. And when I mean that very town, I mean that town. The next town does not provide that dish because these dishes have been around for thousands of years. So if you want to taste all of them, good luck. It's impossible. I can't do it. You cannot do it either. So choose, and wherever you go, ask for the unique specialties of the town, not of the region, of the town. Remember. This is a typical setup of an aperitivo. Remember the first picture? So on the left, the beautiful platter. We were 3-4 people, I think 4. And then we had our spritz and our cocktail. And this was before dinner. So by the end, we had an aperitivo, chit-chat. A couple of us, a couple people stood up and went for a smoke. And then let's go to the restaurant. And then you have your regular dinner. You don't spoil the dinner because everything you see over there is fresh. And you don't have to finish it, but they serve it like that, okay? Now we enter the world of the primo, the first courses. Pasta, gnocchi, risotto, the starch, anything that's flour related. On the left, you can see a map. This is a map I took online. It shows you a few of the hundreds different varieties of pasta dishes that we have in Italy. Remember, in Italy, pasta is not a side, unfortunately, like I've seen doing in France. And that's when I didn't like that. I really dislike it. I'm being very polite, but I really dislike the fact that they served me something with a bed of mushy, saltless pasta. That was horrible. That was like a violence for me. But anyway, pasta is a dish. It's a dish because in the pasta, you not only eat the pasta, but you have the sauce. And the pasta is very important because of the shape of a pasta. You have fresh pasta versus dry pasta. They're the same exact thing, except that fresh pasta still has moist inside. Dry pasta, no moist anymore. It's being dried out, okay? So the dry pasta, you have to take longer to cook, 10, 11, 12 minutes or so. Penne, spaghetti, rigatoni, and so on. Instead, fresh pasta, you need 2, 3, 4 minutes max, like tortellini, cappelletti, ravioli, tagliatelle, fettuccine. Those are fresh, okay? But they're the same thing. They're made in the same way. In this map, you have an example. I mean, some of you, I'm sure you know carbonara, amatriciana, gricia, norma, risotto alla milanese. All of these dishes are local dishes from very different areas of Italy. Where I come from, we have amatriciana, carbonara, and also pappardelle, which is a very thick fettuccine with wild boar ragu sauce and an amazing vegetarian sauce alternative. Now we're getting serious because this is the best carbonara I've ever had in my life. This is the carbonara by Averino from a local trattoria, a very local restaurant. They have only 4 or 5 dishes. If you don't like them, he says that's the door, and he says it in Italian. You go to another place because they only make what they know how to make best. That's the finest carbonara I've ever had. Carbonara is spaghetti with it's cooked with egg, as you can see the yellow of the sauce. Parmigiano and pecorino, depending. Some people put more pecorino, more parmigiano. Bacon, but it's not bacon. It's bacon. It's not even pancetta. It's called guanciale, or in my town, it's called baffo, the mustache, the cheek, the pork cheek, which is a very special kind of flavorful, salty kick kind of meat, and black pepper. Carbonara is originally is from Rome, but I live an hour north of Rome, and we make an Orvieto carbonara, and that's me on the left, making it at home, you see, with a glass of white wine. Why white wine? Because to me, carbonara, that kind of sapidity, that kind of acidity, pairs well with a Orvieto Classico white or Pinot Grigio or many other white wines. Fresh pasta all over the place. These pictures I took in Bologna, the capital city of the world when it comes to fresh pasta. Tortellini, cappelletti, tortelloni, ravioli, green, yellow, white, depends. The green is given by vegetables in the mix of the dough. And on the right, the result. You have gnocchi with truffle. Those come from Orvieto. And on top, you have beautiful cappelletti from Ravenna, Emilia Romagna still. So just south of the Po River. This is one of my groups I guided by when we had our cooking class in Bologna at the Portici Academy, and we made so many different varieties of fresh pasta, and we had a pasta overload, and everybody was so happy, me included, because we did a fantastic job. Oh, another magical ingredient that we are happy to have in our area, because not all areas have it, truffle, black truffle and white truffle. So truffle grows all over the world, but often it doesn't taste quite right. It depends on the soil where it grows. Where I live, and in northern Italy, in the area of Piedmont, and in many other areas of Italy, because of the geology and the soil we have, we're lucky enough that we can find very fine black and white truffle. There's about 10, 12 varieties of black truffle, depending on the season. You know, every month has a season, and every month has its own black truffle. As you can see, you shave it raw. You don't cook truffle, you shave it raw. Or white truffle, only one variety, which is the most precious because it grows deeper underground. Therefore, to dig it out, it takes a lot of extra work. That's why it's very expensive. So the deeper, the more expensive. The deepest, the deeper. The rarest, the rarer, the more expensive. Truffle, you don't wet, you don't wash, you don't cook. You just brush clean, like with a little brush, and you use it right away. You do not freeze it. You can freeze it, but for a couple of days, but then you shave it and eat it. If you like truffle, it's heavenly. If you don't like truffle, it's a very specific flavor, but I invite you to try it. In my area, in Central Italy, on my Central Italy tour, we have a very big truffle experience. But in general, if you go to Piedmont or Abruzzo, there are specific areas of Italy where truffle is really, really important, and therefore part of our diet since before the Romans. Before the Romans, in my area, we had the Etruscans, the pre-Roman civilization of the Etruscans. Those were people that, before the Romans, already had their own recipes, politics, language, and everything. Then they were absorbed by the Romans, but we're still doing a lot of weird things that the Etruscans used to do in those days. Another couple of maps. One on the left is a few of the many ragu varieties. Ragu is, you know what it means. It's a mixed sauce based with meat, but also not only meat. It can be a vegetarian ragu, it can be a fish ragu, seafood ragu, and so on. Ragu is the mix, the sauce. Bolognese, Tuscan, Neapolitan, Romagna, agnello means lamb, and then Puglia ragu. These are the famous ragu of Italy. And on the right, you see the shape of the pasta that they suggest you to use for the right pairing. I was mentioning that the shape of the pasta is critical and crucial for collecting the sauce the right way. If it's a very liquid sauce, you need a shape that collects the sauce. So if you put spaghetti on a very liquid sauce, nothing stays around the spaghetti. If you have instead shell-shaped pasta on a liquid sauce, that helps. Same the other way, of course. And again, another map of different pasta dishes on the screen. But this is just a little example. There are, I think they counted it officially, there's like 1,600 pasta dishes in Italy. And Italy, remember, is smaller than California, to give you an idea, to give you a range. We are obsessed with pasta. Excuse me. It's not that we eat pasta every day, but you always have pasta available in Italy. Excuse me. So here you have a bunch of other pasta dishes. Some are more refined, like gourmet, you know. Bottom left, those are refined presentation. On the top, instead, excuse me, in the top and on the right, instead, it's the home cooking, you know, the more home cooking. These are my two favorite pasta dishes. Pappardelle al cinghiale, wild boar ragu pappardelle from my area. They're very famous in Tuscany, north of Rome, and here. And on the right, my mom's cappelletti. This every year for Immaculate Conception, December the 8th, we have a family reunion, and like in a chain of slaves. I'm not kidding. We produce cappelletti all day, and then we have the dinner, the final dinner. That's the test for the cappelletti. If they're okay, they get frozen and eaten starting Christmas lunch on for the rest of the year. So that's a bag that I got delivered recently, and I took a picture. They're stuffed with a mix of cheese, meat, and vegetables. But it's not only pasta. Of course, when we talk about first course, we talk about risotto, very famous in the north of Italy, but also in the center, we have risotto made with, not with butter, but with olive oil. And of course, you have gnocchi, excuse me. Sorry. So you have different kind of first courses available every time that you like. Let's move on. Oh, this is me and my colleague. I got it by Trina. My mouth is watering. Yes, thank you, Jorge. Yes, you're right. So we have Trina on the left and me on the right. So me is, it seems like I'm checking on Trina's work. I am, and she did an excellent job. But we were making some cooking classes, so it was a great experience. At every guided by tour, almost every guided by tour, there's either a cooking class or some cooking learning experience. We try our very best to try and teach our local cuisine, whether it's Italy, Spain, and Romania, and so on. And then this is when I get hungry and I don't trust the cooks, I jump in. So this is me making some fresh pasta. And on the right, I was eating gnocchi at a friend's restaurant in Bevagna, which is a town where we stop on the Central Italy tour. These are gnocchi in a wine sauce, red wine sauce, the town of Sagrantino di Montefalco. Now, this talk is not going to be big on wine because we don't have much time. But my friends, if you like red wine, look for Sagrantino di Montefalco. Maybe Reiner can write it in the chat for you to spell it. Excuse me. Sagrantino Montefalco is one of the best red wines I've ever tasted, and I've tasted many. And my friends and colleagues and professional sommeliers, they all love it. And that's the town near Montefalco where they make Sagrantino, and where they even make pasta sauce with Sagrantino and Rosso di Montefalco wine. So this is, again, other dishes. Pesto. Pesto comes from the Italian Riviera, but it's available all over Italy. Seafood pasta on the right, we call it spaghetto allo scoglio. Scoglio is the rocks on the water, you know, the rocks that break the waves. Spaghetti allo scoglio. Rigatoni alla matriciana on the left, we have prepared a lot of it. And then on the right, pesto, trofi al pesto, typical of Italian Riviera, but now national dish. Let's go into the second courses. We begin with the meat courses, but then we go into seafood and vegetarian options. This gentleman here is the most famous butcher in the world. He was voted the best butcher in the world. Now, this kind of charts, honestly, rankings, I'm not a big fan of. What I'm a big fan of is a phenomenal steak, and this is Mr. Dario Cecchini from Panzano, Tuscany. And this man really knows how to butcher meat properly. And he has an amazing restaurant in Panzano where you can go. And actually, there's a social table, as you can see, where people sit and get together. They've never met before and enjoy this incredible experience. Tuscany is the region where the meat is, the steaks, mainly the steaks are very important. But also other regions like Umbria, Marche, Emilia Romagna, and Lazio have steaks and many other varieties of meat, like wild boar, for example. This is a tagliata with a zucchini bed on top, or zucchini, actually a bed sheet on top of zucchini, delicious. And then again, here you have a second course. This is a T-bone Fiorentina steak on the left with Chianti wine, as you can see, red wine and steak. And on the right, a side, which is cicoria. This is cicoria, chicory. Chicory is typical in the area north of Rome and where I live. Chicoria is wild. It's a wild plant that we grow, that we actually harvest. We handpick by the side of the street and in the fields, and it tastes amazing. It's bitter with the olive oil. It's a bittersweet flavor. It's an incredible mix, and it pairs just perfectly with any kind of second course that you want to have. This is me barbecuing for some friends in the winter. This winter, actually, I was making some sausages and some steaks from the local butcher, which is my cousin. So I went to my cousin, got the stuff, and lit the barbecue up. And then 20 people showed up, and it was a mess. You know, a good mess. I mean, it was fun, but it was good. Again, more Fiorentina steak. I'm showing you some pictures of Florentine steak because Florentine is a kind of meat that many people do not know, or if they know, they never tried it. Now, Florentine steak, you have to eat rare, medium rare. On the left, you see a very cooked one, and this is the limit you can get, but it has to be eaten. It has to be eaten medium rare or rare, because otherwise it gets stiff and very hard to chew. It gets chewy. And this is me before and after, two different dinners. Of course, on the left, a T-bone. You see the bone rising from the plate. That's a Florentine steak, 1.2, 1.3 kilo. In pounds, I don't know. It's probably 2.8 pounds. And I had to share it, but I managed to eat it myself many times. And on the right, the clean bone. Now, if you want to make the chef happy, the bone has to be cleaned. Otherwise, the chef would be obsessed. So you have to pick up the bone. In Italy, you're allowed to pick up bone, clean the bones when it comes to meat, poultry, and of course, you can use your hands when you eat pizza as well. So the bone has to be cleaned up. But not only steak, of course, we have plenty of other options for meat. You have roast chicken. We are big on roast chicken. Most likely, roast chicken will not be at a restaurant menu. I remember in the States, chicken is broadly available in any restaurant. Here, chicken is more of a home dish. So it's good to go to home restaurants, or we call osteria or trattoria, where they can make you a real roast chicken. Because Italians don't really like to eat chicken that you buy at a grocery store. We tend to like more chicken that's from the farm. So we call it rustic chicken, pollo rustico. And that's when the flavor is very different. And also the meat is very different. So top left is a homemade chicken. That's a small chicken, but we have very big chickens with big bones. Beef stew, second picture. And then top right, you have pork with an apple sauce and some roast potatoes. Bottom left is a wild boar stew, one of my favorite. And then you've got veal, and then you have porchetta. In my area, porchetta is a very famous kind of cut. It's pork. It's slowly cooked for a whole night and a morning, and it's filled with herbs and potatoes and many other ingredients, and then it's sliced. And often they make you a sandwich. It's kind of our fast food option, I want to have a porchetta sandwich. You go to the market, €2-3. They give you a big sandwich with a big slice or two of porchetta with the crust or without the crust, and it's a delicacy. So you should try it. It's amazing if you like pork. All right, this is one of my friend butchers in Cortona, the nearby town. That's where we end our Central Italy tour. She was showing us her finest meats. And then we go into seafood. Now, seafood is big because even though many of the Italian seafood dishes are famous from the south, Sicily, Amalfi, Naples, Apulia, but Central Italy, the whole country has a lot of coastline, And where I live just in the middle between the Tyrrhenian Sea and the Adriatic Sea. So in an hour, I'm at the beach. In an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'm on the Adriatic beach. So it doesn't matter. And we have access to very fresh seafood, but also all the regions, except for my own, Umbria, that doesn't touch the coast. Each region has a very ancient tradition of making seafood, and you have access to plenty of seafood at the local markets, and there are restaurants that specialize in seafood, especially by the coastline, of course. This is a few dishes and pictures from the local markets. You have a beautiful white wine that's in the town of Pesaro, where we go on the Emilia Romagna and Marche tour, with some mixed seafood salad, as you can see, and a beautiful focaccia with rosemary. The one in the middle is sea bass with cooked in the oven with potatoes and spices and olives and cherry tomatoes. On the right, you have some great fried food, and then at the bottom pictures, of course, is the fresh food, the fresh seafood you find at the markets all over Italy. Some people don't eat octopus. Some people do. I do eat octopus. It's a delicacy, and we have access to all sorts of seafood all over the country. Tuna, top right, and octopus. But also you have any kind of fish that you like from the Mediterranean, of course, because if you're looking for salmon or other kinds of fish from the ocean. We have salmon, but we don't have salmons here. So we have salmon coming from Norway or Scotland, because we're not by the ocean. We're in the Mediterranean Sea. Mediterranean is kind of a salted pond for most Americans or Northern Europeans from the Atlantic Ocean. Anchovies, sardines, mussels, shrimp, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you like seafood, wherever you go in Italy, except for the deep north on the Alps, where they don't really have access to, they have access to fish, but not like as much as in by the coastline, you won't be disappointed. There's tons of options for seafood lovers. This is an octopus salad with some celery, parsley, and tomatoes. And then on the right, you have another beautiful mix with special shrimp and fresh fish. So from the container directly to the dish. More seafood, some pasta with seafood, and then also another mix with calamari. Calamari in Italy, they're not only the round ones, but they're also sliced in different ways. So they also make them into little strings, shapes, so they can collect the sauce in a different way. We also have lots of fried calamari here. I know it's a big dish in the US. Okay, now, excuse me, we enter the world of the vegetarian dishes. Now, when we think vegetarian, we have many options in Italy: vegetarian, pescatarian, and vegan. Many dishes, Italian dishes, are historical, traditional dishes, but they're actually vegan by default. In Italy, we have 2,000+ varieties of tomatoes. I'm just showing you a couple here, but if you like tomatoes, you don't go wrong. And many of them taste like full blast tomatoes. Like one of them tastes like a full meal. So that with the good olive oil and a nice slice of bread, and if you eat cheese, a slice of pecorino cheese or Parmigiano cheese, that's already a meal, my friends. That's already a very, very flavorful, inexpensive meal. And of course, you can have more than that. Often in the summer, I slice a few tomatoes, sprinkle salt and olive oil, have some fresh mozzarella cheese if you eat cheese, and maybe a focaccia, and that's a meal. That's a summer meal. An apple or a fruit salad, a lot of water because maybe it's hot in the summertime. And so we have hundreds of vegetarian and vegan options wherever you go in Italy, of course. But remember, look at the menu the right way. Bottom for the side dishes, contorni, when you're looking for the vegetables. Or some appetizers are just vegetarian, okay? This is a selection. On the left, you see some broccoletti with fava bean puree and cherry tomatoes, roast cherry tomatoes. At the top, in the middle, you find fava beans, but those are fava bean strings. The fava bean is still inside the shell. You see, what we do when it's the season of fava beans, we get together with our friend that has fava beans in the farm or in their vegetable garden. We bring a wheel of pecorino cheese, a bottle of wine, fava beans, and pecorino cheese, typical snack. And we have proved that this kind of snack belongs to people that used to live here over 2,000 years ago. Pecorino e fava, delicious. Great combination. And then you have a potato quiche on the right with some shaved cheese on top. In the middle, at the bottom, you have a beautiful vegetable focaccia. The fava beans, Jorge, you mean? No, the fava beans you eat raw. In this case, you take them out of the shell and you eat them raw with the pecorino. Fava bean is sweet and pecorino is sharp, and they make this incredible flavor. They're big. Our fava beans are pretty big.
I know they are. Yeah, thank you.
The same, of course. You're welcome. The same you can cook and then make a puree or make them in like a salad, like a stew. You have many options. They become softer, of course. All right, let's move on. Other options. Eggplants are big in Italy. We have lots of eggplant dishes. Top right, you have the typical Italian parmigiana, eggplant parmigiana. We don't only make it with eggplant, we can make it with other vegetables too, but the parmigiana with eggplants is the most famous all over the world. In the middle, we have some Roman-style carciofi, artichokes. Then you have another beautiful vegetable focaccia. Bottom left, one of my favorite side dishes ever, fried porcini mushrooms. They're broadly available over here. So if you like mushrooms, They taste delicious. And on the bottom right, another favorite dish for me is the egg with shaved black truffle. It's like not a frittata. It's like scrambled eggs with shaved black truffle and olive oil. The Jewish artichoke in the middle, typical dish of Rome and north of Rome. It's an open fried big artichoke, head upside down. And on the left, you have a mixed vegetables. And on the right, you have more cicoria. These are all dishes that you can find seasonally in Italy, because here we eat seasonally. We try our very best not to eat out of season. So we have a great variety. So why waste time buying tomatoes in February when you can have the best tomatoes in July, August, June, September? If it's January, I don't eat tomatoes. I eat something else. Oh, and now, ladies and gentlemen, the king of cheeses for me. Parmigiano Reggiano DOP. Parmigiano Reggiano is, to me, every time my heart starts beating faster when I see a wheel of Parmigiano, especially the one on the left. That's my picture. That's a wheel made in 2013. And this picture was taken in 2023, last year. It was a 10-year-old wheel of Parmigiano Reggiano. It's like when you buy the finest Bordeaux in the world. And this was my group. The picture on the right is my group in the Emilia Romagna Marche tour during the visit of the Parmigiano Reggiano farm. Amazing experience. From the beginning to the end of the production, we saw everything. We met the cows, we tasted the milk, and then, of course, we had our great lunch with an incredible selection of Parmigiano, different aging, and at the bottom, of course, some of the sliced Parmigiano to buy. Another delicacy of Emilia-Romagna region is balsamic vinegar of Modena, but not the one that's very liquid and you spray on your salad. That's balsamic, but it's kind of a second quality. It's still fine, but it's second quality. The traditional balsamic vinegar is the one on the right. It's a syrup. You pour a drop or two of that on your dish, and the flavor is going to be unbelievable. That's a 12-year-old, and there's 12-year-old and 25-year-old traditional balsamic, and that is just mind-blowing. And one drop, trust me, changes the flavor of the whole dish. That's why a container like that can last for a long time, a year or two. And we go to a balsamic vinegar farm on our Emilia Romagna Marche tour, of course, at Villa Bianca vinegar. Truffle, that's me a few years ago with a big bowl of black truffle. And then that's me in the middle with my friends truffle hunting. And on the right is my good friend Bruno, one of the best truffle hunters I've ever met in my life, with a bunch of fresh truffles. Truffle grows underground in lack of oxygen. It's like it's not a mushroom, but it's kind of a tuber, similar to a potato in consistency, but has to grow underground in lack of oxygen. Otherwise, if there's oxygen, oxidation happens and the truffle expires and dies. That's why the flavor is so intense. Oh, that's my little niece, Caterina, in the middle with my favorite cake and her favorite cake, as you can see from her face. That's a local dish called zuppa inglese, English soup. It's neither English nor soup. It's just a special cake that I love. And every birthday we have in the family, we make zuppa inglese, the English soup. It's called like that because in the 1800s, people named it like that because it looked like an English trifle. But it's not a trifle. It's not an English trifle. It's an Italian trifle. Very popular here. On the left, there's a homemade tiramisu with lady fingers and coffee, of course. And on the right, you have some other homemade cakes. In Italy, you have thousands of homemade desserts and also thousands of famous, fancy restaurant desserts. I'll show you a couple of pictures. This is a home production. All these pictures come from my family. So top left, fruit cake, wine cookies with a crostata, the one with the grid shape. That's a crostata with jam. In that case, it's fig jam. Top right, and then you have zuppa inglese served in a glass. Ciambellone, the big donut you see in the dark one with apples. It's perfect for dunking in coffee and milk. And then on the right is torrone, which is an almond cake. And then you have professional cakes in every town we go on our tours, but everywhere in Italy you have amazing pastry shops. And this is from my town Orvieto, Bar Montanucci. They make this incredible chocolate cake called Semolina chocolate cake by Montanucci. It's a signature cake. Signature cake means that this recipe you can only find at Montanucci. If you go to the next door bar 10 yards away, you won't find it. There are hundreds of thousands of signature dishes in Italy because the tradition has been perpetuating for so long. Simple but incredible homemade desserts, my friends. Yes, because simple doesn't mean plain. Often simple, if it's made right, and simple with good ingredients, is the best. You don't need to overdo it. Top left, wine cookies. Wine cookies are made in the dough. You just pour some local wine and a little sugar on top. You bake them, and they're great. And they come with the wine. So the pairing is great. On the right, you have a fruit salad with some homemade gelato and a glaze of caramel, So very simple, very inexpensive. And yet, if the fruit is great, if the wine is good, if the flour is good, you don't need anything else. Oh, that's me last year harvesting some cherries with the wine, of course, Tom, always. That's me harvesting some cherries at the next door neighbor house. We have a walnut tree and a couple of other fruit trees in our yard, but all the neighbors have different trees, so we kind of tour. We do tours, neighborhood tours of. Now is the season for cherry. Everybody goes with the ladder at Luigi's house next door, and we steal all the cherries, and then the figs, and then the plums, and then so on. All of these things that you see come from within 20 yards from my house, and it's very typical here. You have cherries on the left, strawberries on the right from the local market. Top, you have the prunes, the plums. We call them nuns' thighs, the thighs of the nuns, because they have this shape of a thigh. And then top right is the strawberries that come from my yard, and bottom right it's a fruit, one of the many fruits that I've never seen abroad. They're called giuggiole in dialect. I don't even know the actual name. They taste great. They're hard as an apple, but they're small with a pit. Anyway, when you come to these places, there will always be something unique to taste for you at all times. We have an incredible variety of production all over the country. Remember, from high mountains in the Alps, we have great apples, to the bottom of Sicily, where we have almost tropical climate. So we have almost everything except for fully tropical. We don't grow pineapples. We don't grow mango, but we already start growing bananas. And Italy is the second largest producer of kiwis in the world, of course, after the Kiwis, the New Zealanders. So if you like kiwis, everybody has a kiwi plant or 10,000, and so on. An incredible variety of citrus and apples, and so on. Pears, of course, figs, cherries, apricots, and so on. And then at the very end of the meal, I hope you're hungry enough. Now you need something with a different level of consistency and acidity. Espresso. Now, espresso is the modern coffee. It's the modern Italian coffee with the espresso machine and a professional maker, blah, blah, blah. But Italians have always drunk the mocha. You see the bottom picture in the middle? Those are the mocha machines. Some of them are very burnt out, because those, every morning I take the small one for one. It's a one cup serving, thick, a big cup, maybe 1.5 serving, and it's a percolation machine, and that's just my favorite coffee. But when I'm around, I cannot ask for a mocha coffee at a bar, at a local Italian bar, and they make me an espresso. But I'm a fan of the no foam. And then on the right, you have a classic espresso with a little chocolate piece. And top right is a famous roastery in Modena, in the city of Modena, in Emilia Romagna. That's the last day on our Emilia Romagna Marche tour, where we're free to go. It's not an activity, but those who want to have a coffee from the restaurant, we don't have it at the restaurant. We go to the roastery next door, and they make us an incredible coffee. And we took it like 3 times, I think. All right. After the coffee, I mentioned the coffee killer. So limoncello, amaro, the digestive drink. In this case, I'm with some clients, and I'm showing them around a few bottle selections. Amaro, Montenegro, Amaretto di Saronno, the almond liqueur, grappa, limoncello, and I don't remember what. One bottle was empty already, so I don't remember what it was. But it's gone. Don't worry, they're all gone. Now, we went through a menu, but then there's also the street food of Italy that you don't necessarily find in a restaurant, but you will find in other situations, like a pizza place or other areas. Top left, suppli, typical of Rome and my area. They're not the rice balls of Sicily called arancino or arancina. These are oval shaped like this, and they're filled with, as you can see, like melting cheese, rice, lemon zest, and many other ingredients. The original recipe is actually vegetarian, but also there's the ragu version with some minced meat inside. And then plenty of sandwiches, bottom right, the typical Italian focaccias or paninis. On the left, the mortadella, famous of Bologna. It's not the Bologna, this is the real deal. This is something very serious. When you try mortadella from Bologna, it opens a new door. And then, of course, Italian pizza, round pizza, Neapolitan pizza, or Italian pizza. The difference is in the temperature of the cooking and in the consistency of the dough. And also the square pizza. Where I come from, north of Rome, we are famous for a square pizza, rectangular trays of pizzas made in one or more flavors, and then they slice them, as you can see, into squares, rectangles, and then they do this with two, and they give it to you, €1 or €2, and you have an amazing snack as you walk to the next place. So you can have a beer on the right, a pizza, a sandwich on the left, and you go and you spend like less than €5. Pizza, we call it pizza al taglio, pizza by the cut. And as you notice, one thing that's important, not all pizzas have tomato and cheese. In Italy, it's different. We have a lot of white pizzas that, as you can see, some of the pizza you can see in the picture, some of them are white with cheese, some of them are white without the cheese. Okay, so it's important to know, because often people think pizza has to have cheese and tomatoes. No, not necessarily. This is me and Rainer. This was a very important meeting in Florence. So we were discussing a lot of strategies and things, and then we realized that everything was going great. So we went for one of the finest gelatos in Florence, and our faces can give it away. But gelato, of course, is another big, important delicacy in Italy. And gelato was invented in Florence, in Tuscany, in the 1500s, the modern gelato that we have. And but before the invention of gelato, there was flavored ice. Flavored ice. People realized that by taking snow and giving it a flavor of lemon or strawberry or whatever, watermelon and something, and some things that would give the sugary flavor, even though sugar was not existing yet here, because sugar was imported from the Americas much later. They realized that it was delicious, and it was the cheapest dessert ever. You squeeze a bunch of cherries on the snow, and you eat it, and it's great. Then gelato was the evolution when they realized that adding milk in the process, in the slow process, would create this incredible creamy feel. Wine. Now, this is not a wine talk, also because in the next days, my colleague and good friend Francesco Gronchi, who's an expert, who's a professional wine writer and sommelier, he's going to give us an amazing talk on for Guided By here on the same channel. But I cannot not mention wine. I told you wine is an ingredient for us. So you can drink it or not. Like if you don't eat pasta, or eat pasta. You eat meat, you don't eat meat. You drink wine, you don't drink wine. But if you drink wine, in Italy, the mindset is age doesn't matter really, because I started drinking wine when I was like 7 or 8 years old with my parents, diluted with water. So in a very safe place. I wasn't drinking in the streets, but it was part of the meal. My grandpa, I remember saying, you should try it, because if you don't like it, you try something else. But if you like it, you can have more when you're older. So by the time I became of age, wine was nothing. I mean, it was another ingredient like sugar, or like flour. Italy has a very popular, very high-level wine production, but it's a new thing, because 30, 40 years ago, everybody knew French wine. Very few people knew Italian wine. But now Italian wine has become like other countries like Spain or South American countries or Australia, New Zealand, has become a big producer of wine. But we've always produced wine. In the Mediterranean, since before the Greeks, we've always produced wine. Wine as an ingredient, fermentation of the grapes with or without the skin, and you make wine. So wine is a pairing element that can also give you a nice buzz. If you have too much of it, the buzz becomes drunkenness. If you have a nice little buzz, it makes your heart lighter, and you can face the rest of the day in a nice way. But if you drink wine without eating, you get drunk. That's what happened to me when I lived in the States. First time I was invited at a party, I was given these huge glasses of red wine without any food. And I had one and it was delicious. And I had second, and the third one, I was like done. Like I couldn't speak to the people anymore. I had to go. I had to leave. Top left is in my town, Orvieto. It's a wine station, like a gas station. Gas station, you fill your tank for the car. In this case, you go with your wine jugs empty and you fill them for 120, 150 a liter. So 20, 30 euro, you go back home with 30, 40 liters, 10 gallons, 20 gallons of wine. We're surrounded in central Italy. We are surrounded by olive groves, vineyards, and forests. It's a big agricultural area. So small towns, many hill towns surrounded by greenery and crop. So that is something that you should know, because when you come back between Rome and Florence, or even in Emilia Romagna, you will be surrounded by all of this. Oh, this is a very important personalities in my life. Now, the one on the left is me, of course. That's me serving some local wine. The second man, the older picture, that's my grandfather, Eliseo. He passed away many years ago. He's the man who introduced me to wine, and that's him opening yet another bottle of wine. This was an after-dinner drink, and he was a very important person in my life because he was also part of the resistance during World War II against the Nazi fascists and so on. So a big personality in my life. The third man, top right, is Luciano from Tuscany. He's giving me his best, finest gift ever, 2 bottles of his own made Vinsanto. Vinsanto is a sweet wine made in Tuscany. For him, that was like giving me 20,000 euro in cash. For him, that was the kind of gift that was so important for him. So I brought it home. It didn't last much. And then bottom right, 2 of my good friends and former tour members at one of my guided by tours, John and Christine, of course, showing how many glasses or how many bottles of wine we had that night at the table. That was just the bottles from John, by the way. So the table was a big table. We had a lot of glass to get rid of. But anyway, the wine was great. And that was in Urbino, in the town of Urbino in the Marche. This is Luciano, the Vinsanto man. This is his cellar for the Vinsanto grapes, which is grape that's aged longer. Therefore, the berries, the fruit, the raisins, sorry, the grapes become raisin. They lose liquid and they keep the sugar. So when they get crushed, they create this amazing Vinsanto. And that usually comes, it's paired with this cookie, almond cookies called Cantucci in Tuscany, Tozzetti in Umbria. So wine can be a home ingredient, but can also be, in Italy, we can also have among the finest wines in the world. This one, Cervaro della Sala, has been voted for the last 10, 15 years among the top 5 white wines in the world, and the winery is right there. It's like 7-8 minute drive from where I live. Cervaro della Sala. It's an oaky, amazing wine from the Antinori family. Antinori family is one of the biggest producers in Italy. They produce very fine wine. So we can go from high-end production to not low quality, but like inexpensive production. $2.99, $3.99 a bottle, $1.50 at the wine station. Still very, very pleasant wines for daily use. You see? And wine is a social thing. Wine, like food, is something social. We'll talk about this in a second. I'm just showing you this map, but then Francesco will cover this, I'm sure, in his talk. This is a very general, limited map of the most popular, the most famous wines and varieties of wines of Italy. Italy is one of the regions, I think the only country in the world that produces wine in each of its 20 regions, as you can see here. And all of them are also protected varieties of wine. Some regions, of course, the list is huge, like Piedmont or Tuscany or Sicily. Some other regions have 2 or 3, but still, they're all very nice wines. The soil changes dramatically as you move south, east, or west, or north. So you can take a picture or a screenshot. Again, I'm not going to cover much about wine because, again, this is already an overwhelming talk for me because it's a lot to cover. We don't only have wine, of course, we produce a lot of interesting beers like Moretti, Peroni, Menabrea, Icnusa, and so on. Lots of breweries, home breweries for beer in Italy, but also we have other drinks, spritz. Of course, vino is wine, but we also have a lot of digestive drinks and so on. So Italians like their drinks, but each drink has to be drunk in the right way and at the right moment with the right pairing. That's very typical of the Italian mindset. If you have spritz after dinner, the waiter will come and look at you like, why? Couldn't you have it like before dinner? Because there are rules that Italians are obsessed with. I don't care much, but trust me, if you want to have a spritz, have it before dinner or before lunch. If you ask it after lunch, they will look at you weird. Another thing that's important to know is the markets of Italy. In Italy, we have many, many markets. Every town has their own markets. Some are permanent markets. Some are they're traveling markets. Every Tuesday and Friday, for example, every Thursday and Saturday, the market, the fruit, vegetable, the farmers market comes to town. And in this case, for example, you have a lady serving you a homemade cake at the market, but also you have a bunch of different things, not only fruit and vegetables, but spices, aromas, all kinds of different salts and everything. The variety is spectacular. So if you don't like this, try the next one. And then the next week you try the next one. And then again, it never ends. So these are some pictures of local markets of Central Italy, local little shops, bigger markets, people having their aperitivo spritz outside the market before dinner on the left, bottom left, some citrus market, and of course, bottom right, one of my good friends from Cortona, one of the oldest bakeries in Tuscany. That's Elisa from Cortona, and she is probably like 5th generation bakery making very special breads and cookies, Last but not least, if you are in Italy and you're on vacation and you happen to have a car or somebody that drives for you, aim to look for a Sagra, S-A-G-R-A. It's an authentic Italian food festival, and there's one every day, everywhere you are, basically, within 20-mile range, especially spring, summer, and fall. When people sit together, you see big or smaller places, locals serve you the local specialty. This is a wild boar Sagra from my area. And from Castiglione Fiorentino is 45 minutes north of here in Tuscany, and it's famous for the Wild Boar Festival. So this was the 38th Wild Boar Festival, and this was the poster from 2015. So now it's the 47th Wild Boar Festival, Sagra. And you go there, you not only eat wild boar, you eat everything you like. The menu is pretty diverse, rich. But it's a celebration of wild boar dishes. So you have pappardelle al cinghiale, spezzatino di cinghiale, wild boar stew, wild boar steaks, wild boar sausages, and so on. And then you can have vegetarian gnocchi. I don't think you have seafood at this kind of sagra because it's a wild boar sagra, so seafood in this case is probably not available, okay? All right. And then when you are on your own, or if you're with your tour guide and you're free on your own time for lunch or dinner, you need to know at least these 4 names in the middle of the picture: trattoria, pizzeria, osteria, ristorante. Now, trattoria is a local restaurant that would serve you a nice menu, 10, 15, 20 dishes, all local dishes, okay? So if you're looking for a local dish in Rome, in a trattoria, you do not find Venetian salad or pasta alla norma from Sicily. You only find Roman dishes, okay? Trattoria, like tractor. Pizzeria, of course, it's a pizza place that serves you pizza, salads, and other kinds of bakeries. Osteria is a hardcore trattoria. So if trattoria has 15, 20 dishes on the menu, osteria has 3, 5 if you're lucky. Ristorante instead is something that can serve you more or less national and international cuisine. So ristorante might serve you dishes from all over the place, And often restaurants might have a famous chef or, even Michelin star. In fact, we call them Michelin star restaurants. We don't call Michelin star trattorias, because trattoria is something more down to earth. And my last piece of advice for you, if you don't know where to go and eat, take a side street, follow your nose, and follow the locals. See where the locals are going. You see those people in the middle of the page? Those people I met at a local trattoria. I've never been to this trattoria on the left, Hermes, in Modena. Hermes. My friends, I had lunch at Hermes. I spent 23 euro. I had 4 dishes, a whole bottle of wine. That was my lunch break from my group. Then I went back to the group and they looked at me like, "You're very red." I know. And I got to meet these friends, and we're in contact now. We're in touch. This was last year. We're still text message, happy birthday, whatever. And you meet new friends. So follow the locals, follow your nose, and get to meet local people. This is the quintessential way to experience the Mediterranean world and Italy. And in fact, food, since the Roman times and before the Romans, since the Greek times, is the symposium or convivium, called by the Romans convivium. Convivium means co-living, living together. Food is an excuse, meaning it's not an excuse. You need to eat, otherwise you die. But why eating by myself in the corner, by myself in the dark room, or with some people, friends and family, and chit chat and discuss, and even get into a fight sometimes, doesn't matter, or maybe meet somebody new and enjoy the rest of the evening, whatever. Convivium, symposium is social. In fact, food is social. That's why Italians always eat together. In this few pictures I'm showing you, top left is my Central Italy tour when we went to the village of Montichiello. We had a beautiful alfresco lunch outside. On the right is my group in the town of that's, I think, the town of Modena, where we were having our spritz. You see our aperitivo before lunch. Bottom left is a French restaurant. The lady with the hat and the dog, she was the cook, and we all were having fun. There was also live music. Then bottom center is my parents. We don't go out much with my parents, but when we go out, we go to local trattoria. We spend 2-3 hours, chit chat, make new friends, and then bye guys, see you tomorrow, see you next week. And then bottom right is my band. So that's me on the left, and then Valerio and Gabriele, my band called Bartender. This is before a concert. And as you can see, we were seated, eating and drinking properly. Otherwise, we don't perform. The agreement is that you pay us, but you have to feed us. If you pay us and not feed us, we're not going to play. That's the agreement. So social. Food is social. Anytime. And then my favorite cook. My favorite cook on the left, my mom. Honestly, it's not because it's my mom, but she has now that especially we gave her as a gift a tablet. She can find even new recipes. Now it's the end, my friends. It's the end, because every couple of days she's like, "You gotta come and try this. You gotta come and try this, because I think it's bad. It's bad. I think your dad doesn't like it. He makes weird faces." So I go, and it's always delicious. So I wish you could meet my mom whenever you come back to Orvieto, or come to Orvieto, or if you come on my Central Italy tour. I'm actually thinking maybe if it's a good amount of people, enough to fit, maybe we can have her cook for all of us. And then that's my face after a special trattoria night. And then the food was so much that on the right, that's me in the narrowest alley in Italy. And if you eat too much, you don't fit there. So I need to be effective eating, but also working out. Thankfully, my job as a tour guide takes me to walk every day for lots of hours, and I try to be in the best shape possible. But food is great, and I like food. I'm a foodie. Anyway, this is me with the background of my hometown Orvieto, which is the home base for the first 4 nights on our Central Italy tour guided by. This is the ancient Etruscan hill town of Orvieto, and that's me in one of the finest wineries on the same tour. This was in Arezzo, at the oldest winery in the world, 1282. That's when this winery started operating, and still operates under the same name and license, Tenuta di Fraternita. Great wines, very inexpensive, but it's the oldest that we know of. And my friends, that's it. I hope I wasn't boring. I hope this wasn't too long. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate. We can do some Q&A through the chat with Rainer. I thank each and every one of you. And also, if you need to contact me anytime, that's my email, david@guided-by.com, and also my Guided By webpage, but all the website has plenty of information. I know some of you already have my personal email and phone number, so please feel free to contact me anytime. I thank you again so very much, and now I'll pass the microphone to Rainer. Thank you, Rainer. I tried my best to keep it short, but this was probably the most difficult talk I've ever done in my life.